Welcome back to the channel. This is Roberto with Full Curl Precision again. I was just going over some numbers. Like I said, before in one of my previous videos, I did. I was able to put in some data I have into GRT on my cartridge specs. So those are in there. And one of the things I've been trying to do is highlight the importance of kind of balancing your charge load to your burn rate and just trying to maximizing everything. And so I set out with the goal to also do this kind of out of a 22-inch barrel for now, simply because I'm trying to build it and give numbers based upon something that's a little easier to carry around. And I want to show you some really interesting numbers. I'm happy with these, and while there's going to be different bullet weights and options, and I'm still kind of figuring all that out, but this is a common bullet weight and type for 27 caliber. And I'm going to turn the camera around and you'll see what I mean. So here we go. Again, the 27 Ibex. There's the cartridge overall look, what it'll do, because I'm seating it out much further. And so I'm using the 150 grain Nosler AccuBond long range, and I'm going to continue to personally hunt with this. I need to adjust some of these numbers here, because that's a 0.591. Enter. And actually, while I'm at it, let me pull up my data on the box, because I have that. Yeah, they have the wrong reloading numbers on there. And your G7 is a 0.298. All right, that's better. Yeah, the numbers on the box are not matching that. So there you go. There's an adjustment. But overall, I chose Ramshot Magnum and 67 grains of it. And I'm doing a 22-inch barrel. Okay. 65,000 PSI. So I'm pushing it right close to max. Check that out. 3014, so 3,000 feet per second out of a 22-inch barrel. And mind you, this is based upon sea level and a standard 6 grooving. I'm going to a 5R rifling, and I'm using, and I'm at like 5,000 feet of elevation, somewhere between 5,000 and 5,100. So I'm going to be at a much higher elevation. So there's a potential between elevation change and rifle. I could be looking at 3,100 feet per second if I try this. I need to get some of this powder now. Ramshot Magnum. I have the Ramshot Hunter. Now let me see what I can actually come up with that, because, here we go. Ramshot Hunter. All right, that's way too high, obviously, in comparison. So I'm going to peel back. That's at 105% capacity. We're going to bring this back to 60. Go 61. So it's like 60.8. So again, I'm pushing it still to like max capacity there. With a 95, basically 96% fill and 100% burn rate out of that 22-inch barrel. I'm, right there. So 64,000 PSI, 2973. So still a really good number. I do have this powder. Would I ever charge it that high? No, I would not. But that's actually really good burn and fill rate. Let me peel this back and call it, say, 60 grains. So that's actually a really good velocity out of a 22-inch barrel. 2934 feet per second. And again, that's peeling it back to there where I'm at 61,400, which is a much safer spectrum to be in. Yeah, so this has some really good potential. Again, the idea is to be able to achieve some really good numbers out of a slightly shorter barrel. Nothing extravagantly short, but just 22 inch. And that kind of will make it a little easier for packing around. And I've explained it in previous videos. Is, if you're sitting, whether that's, and somebody asked the question, what about the guys on the East Coast? Okay, well, I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in New York State. I'm used to very thick terrain, hunting in tree stands. But the thing is, there's logging roads, and some of those logging roads, this is not an exaggeration, some of those logging roads are pretty straight. You can get a 200 plus yard shot. It's not too difficult. There are a lot of agricultural fields. So let's say you live where there's apple orchards. There's a lot of fruit orchards in the Northeast. New York State's actually the second largest apple producer in the country. So with that being said, there's a lot of times where you can get up into a box blind and look down the rows of these trees where deer will walk through. Again, not uncommon to get 200 to 300 yard shots on these open ag areas. And then you have, just the wide cornfields, depending on the county. Some of those fields could be, if you get the right angle, it's not too difficult. I knew plenty of guys that were taking deer at 500 and 600 yards. I happen to mostly hunt thicker trees. So, most of the properties I hunted that were a good mixture of hardwoods and fields. And one of the properties I hunted the most, I ended up taking deer at 150 to 200 yards. Again, it's not tremendously far. So it's like, okay, well, why would you take this cartridge over, let's say, a standard 270? Which is a great question. And the answer is versatility, but also the fact that it's going to achieve standard 270 velocities and actually a little better out of a 22-inch barrel instead of a 24. And so if you have the option of having a slightly shorter platform, it makes it a little easier. Like if you go into the posts I have on YouTube, you can go back through and you'll see where I post pictures of the rifle itself. And that's a 22-inch barrel with a muzzle brake on it. And that will make it easier. So instead of having a 24-inch barrel and then having to have the same muzzle brake, you have a shorter package. And when you're going through the woods, it does make it a little easier, for not getting caught on limbs. It does make it easier when you're up in your tree stand. You have very limited space in what you can do. A box blind, the same thing. Or you're stalking through the woods. That's the other thing too. It's like, so it is very common to have a 22-inch barrel with 270 30-06, but also 24s are as well. My point is, if you have a 22-inch barrel, if I can get it to perform closer to that of a 24 or a 26-inch barrel, but out of a 22, you're getting harder hitting rounds. And that's kind of helpful. Anyone who's from areas of like Pennsylvania or New York, even parts of Vermont up into New Hampshire and Maine, they can tell you that those mountain whitetails are no joke. They get big. A lot of guys talk about, bull elk and rut, and they are tough. That's true. There's no doubt about that. But the thing is, bucks in rut can get tremendously tough as well. And I'm going to tell this quick side story as kind of to share a point. I actually had a neighbor, and this is partly his fault because he didn't select the right bullet type, but he had a 300 Win Mag. And he was an older gentleman, but that's what he wanted to hunt with because, you know, the body on the whitetail bucks where I got, it wasn't uncommon for them to hit 250, if not heavier. And so I went with him, and just to help him drag out. And he shot a buck, no joke, 80 yards with a 300 Win Mag. And it was a quartering 2 shot, so he had to shoot through the shoulder bone. Well, with that softer bullet that he was using, it shattered the shoulder. It went through and it stopped in the first lung. Like that's what it did. It did not penetrate very well. And that deer managed to make it 500 yards before it finally expired, which was kind of lousy because it crossed 3 different property boundaries. So it wasn't just getting permission from the immediate neighbor, it was the ones after that you had to get permission from as well. And they were kind enough to let us on to recover the deer. And the one thing I'm not saying that because I'm trying to say, oh, it's all about bullet selection, which that is part of it. My point is the toughness of that animal. You'd think that a chip shot distance with a 300 Win Mag, that deer would have been down instantly. But whatever happened, it was a freak scenario where the bullet just broke up, only hit 1 lung, and the deer made it considerably farther than it should have. Whitetails can get very tough. And if you go online so it's nysdec.gov is the New York State Fish and Game. The New York State record black bear is 684 pounds. And the Fish and Game have confirmed relocations of bears hitting 750 plus pounds. Black bears that are bigger than the largest confirmed grizzly in Yellowstone. And if you don't believe me, you can look it up. It was like a couple years ago. The largest confirmed grizzly in the Yellowstone region weighed 712. So you have confirmed relocations of black bears in New York State larger than the grizzlies in Yellowstone. Yeah, there are some large animals over there. And while you can't hunt the moose over there, there are some moose. I've met a couple guys that had to shoot them in self-defense, and they had to just keep drilling them and drilling them and drilling them. Moose are tough. They can take a bullet, and especially the ones that are over there because they're not the Shiras moose. So there's 3 subspecies of moose in North America. The Shiras is along the Rocky Mountain Range. Then you have the Canadian bloodline, which spans most of Canada. They kind of intersect up into the Canadian Rockies. But they drop down into parts of the U.S. So your border states and your Great Lakes region, and then into like the Northeast. So the moose that you'd hear about like in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, New York, Pennsylvania, those are gonna be your Canadians. And then the famous Yukons that are up in the northwest parts of Canada and bleed over and then are into Alaska. So, yeah, there's some big critters around there. So the thing I'm getting at is, with as tough as those whitetails can get, and as large as the black bears are, does it hurt to have something that hits them a little harder? No, it doesn't. So the nice part about it is you can still stick with your standard 130 grain bullets, but you can go up to your 140s, your 150s. And so if you're getting, 2950 to 3000 feet per second out of a 22-inch barrel with a 150 grain Nosler AccuBond long range, that's the same kind of velocities you can expect when you're loading hot with a standard 270. Most of your 150 grain loads for 270 are loaded between 2850 and 2900. So if you can get a hotter load with accuracy out of mine, it makes sense to do it. And that's actually kind of the reason why I'm going with this. And then the other thing too is that, let's say you want to be able to and let's say you do, for some reason, let's say you do live in Pennsylvania or New York State. Okay, well, what if you have been putting in for draw tags, um, let's say here in Montana or Idaho or Wyoming or Utah or Colorado, um, Arizona, New Mexico, just name it, whatever area. Let's say you're drawing out, and let's say you finally draw that elk tag. The best part about my cartridge compared to a standard 270 is you don't have to go and get another rifle. You have your one rifle, and now you're going to have, because of the throating that's on it, whether you hand load or eventually the idea is, again, to get it to market, you can then take that and go get a 165, a 170, a 175, and have a heavier 4 caliber bullet like a 6.8 Western does, but inside of this rifle that you already have. So it makes it really easy to go from those really lightweight bullets that you can use, that you may be already comfortable with, to now you can go and just simply re-sight in your rifle with a different load. You don't have to go out and get another rifle. You can literally have one rifle that'll do the trick on pronghorn, mule deer, whitetails, elk, moose. Now on elk and moose, will you have to pick your shots? Yes. The fact is, I don't care if you're shooting even a 338 Lapua. If you don't pick your shots and make those shots count and do it correctly, then yes, you're going to have issues. I highly suggest to always take an ethical shot regardless of the caliber and cartridge you're using to drive it. Obviously, you can get away with more with a heavier bullet, better construction, so on and so forth. But in any case, it's always good hunting practice to not take stupid shots. And so with that being the case, I felt that in seeing the 6.8 Western come out, okay, here's a really good opportunity with some advancement. I'd like to be part of that advancement. And there's all these other calibers that are getting all this love and attention. And I'm like, dude, we need more 27s. So that's why I'm doing this, is because I'd like to be able to give the 27 caliber community something besides the 270 Winchester or the 6.8 Western. Really, right now, the only real affordable 27 caliber is the 270 Winchester. The 270 WSM, skyrocketed right around COVID. 6.8 Western is finally starting to get some traction. 277 Sig Fury, cool concept, but irrelevant until the rifles and ammunition really show up, and that's its own mess. 6.8 SPC, I don't know. I wouldn't use it past 150 yards max. And really, it's not really a hunting round. It's not really. 270 Weatherby Magnum, really good cartridge. Stupid expensive ammunition. The rifles are not easy to get. You're just going to have to either do custom or you're spending a lot of money on a Weatherby rifle. It's a difficult struggle either way. Yeah, besides the 270 Winchester, the most popular cartridge of the 27s next is the 270 WSM. That's starting to change. The 6.8 Western's finally starting to catch up, and I think it's kind of cool. But yeah, I want to be able to offer a long action version of that. And that's really kind of the idea. I'm not really looking to compete with the 6.8 Western. I'm looking to, because that's a short action, okay? And it has its own thing going on, and I have nothing but respect for it. So I'm not really looking at it as competition. I'm looking at it as another member of the family type thing. And something to definitely learn from. Winchester is really good at innovation. But on the whole, let me turn back. That's kind of why I'm doing this, because, you know, you're getting mid 2900s with a really good construction bullet with a good weight out of a 22-inch barrel as opposed to a 24. I'm happy with that. That's a really good selection to be able to learn from. And, you know, there's going to be, you're going to be able to use your H4350s, IMR 4350s, Ramshot Hunter, your Vita Voorhees, whatever you're using, you can use it. There's ways to find it. But yeah, that's a really good projection out of that. And so, you know, this is still going to be ethical on game out the distances like 500 and 600 yards with a really good hit, and those bullets will expand. So that's all I have for. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. I appreciate all that you guys do. Again, the website is up and running. We're still loading pictures and things like that, so it's kind of rudimentary for the moment. But yeah, and we're gonna organize where we can do a 3-box special. So there's the 100 rounders, there's the 20 rounders, and then there's the 10 rounders. And then we're doing hats as well. So I hope that, you know, if you guys want a hat, please put in an order. And again, we're going to try to see what else we can find besides the basic black with a color. If that's what you want, great. I'm going to tell you what, I love mine. It's super comfortable. But yeah, that's what we have for tonight. So please like, subscribe, share, comment, and we'll talk to you again.